From CJ DeYoung III, a $5 super thanks. Today's players and most 25-year-olds could use a large dose of authoritarian coach or adult in their lives to help them grow the F up. Thank you. This was, by the way, in reference to like the idea of hiring Deion Sanders as the Cowboys head coach and why our Commanders host thought that was a good idea in the end. I don't disagree. I think what the decisions are is like how large is said dose. I don't think the throwback 70s styles coaches work particularly well. I think it's more of a, you need to have some semblance of tough love and not just, everything's all fine and dandy. And you don't want coddling. There's the old spare the rod, spoil the child. We don't use rods anymore, though. You can kind of find a middle ground, which I do agree with. And CJ, thank you for the super thanks as well. Now, this is a feature on YouTube. It's just like a super chat. It's on demand. Allows you to donate outside of live videos. Click the thanks icon, edit your message, send in whatever. We will give you a shout out every time there's a super thanks here at Chat Sports on our live shows because we appreciate your support. Doug Lamb. Now, again, we're filming this mailbag before any decision made on the Cowboys head coaching search, but relevant, I think, to the overall conversation, so I wanted to include it. I think Dak had a hand in potential decisions so Dak can have more control of the team and call plays for the offense. I honestly don't. And if that is the case, I don't know what this team is doing. You don't let the quarterback pick the head coach. That's not how it works. There is an organizational hierarchy. You want the quarterback and head coach to have a good relationship. I have no doubts there is a good relationship between the offensive staff and Dak Prescott because Dak's a good soldier. He eventually gets along with everybody in the end. There were issues between Dak and McCarthy, and they got it figured out in the end. This is where your ownership has to do a good job. I think it would be kind of crazy to me if somehow it's still Dak's fault that the ownership hired a head coach that we don't want. Which I know it's not what Doug is saying, but that will be a claim that ends up getting made. I think that you need to. My issue here is that you've not done a real coaching search. Interviewed 4 people as of filming, and 2 of them nobody else wanted to interview for even a coordinator role. From Chua Lore, who should the Niners hire as defensive coordinator and special teams coordinator? I think from a D coordinator standpoint, the ideal and I think favorite outcome is Robert Saleh ends up returning as the defensive coordinator. If it's not that, it is, oh boy, Brandon Staley. I don't have a great answer for you on the special team side. That doesn't sound like Nick Sorensen is going to end up being an option there. In the end, I would have loved to got Bones Fossil. I would go look at the best special teams coaches and say, okay, who's your assistant coach? But you got to get somebody new in there ASAP. From Sanderson, is the Tyreek Hill trade dead? Maybe, who knows? I don't know. It's all been kind of quiet on that front. It might be that maybe Tyreek let his emotions calm down a little bit and is now, setting himself up to kind of balance and have one more run with it. Because the Dolphins just paid him. I don't think they want to trade him. I also don't know if the agent wants to have Tyreek Hill demand a trade for a second time, which didn't work out as well as he wanted the first time. I think it might have just been emotions and frustration. What will the Dolphins do with Tyreek Hill? T for trade, K for keep. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. It's the pinned comment, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Ricky Torres, is Quinn Ewers a possibility for the Raiders? In round 1, I sure hope not, because he is not ready to be an NFL starting QB. At some point in the draft, absolutely. Ewers has a lot of footwork issues that lead to inconsistencies as a passer, which you're willing to overlook when you're, an inexperienced player. And Quinn, by the way, is only 21 years old. Now, he turns 22 before the NFL draft, but he is still pretty young. But there's also a lot of reps. You got to kind of change that muscle memory on to not when that Oklahoma game lives rent-free in my mind. He steps in the pocket. It's pocket to step up. It's a clean pocket in the end. And instead of throwing it like this, with shoulders square and everything, his feet are flared out and he's almost throwing it like this. So no surprise you're throwing it like this, and that ball flails out way to the right and it's picked off. That play lives rent-free in my mind because it's all these I have it with Quinn Ewers. So possible? Yeah. Day 3? Sure. Upside, gamble on the arm talent there. But you got to be patient. Christian, does Eric Bienemy return to the NFL? I would not be surprised, but I don't think it'll be as a offensive coordinator. Kind of feel like going back to his roots as a running backs coach is the most likely outcome here for Bienemy. The UCLA offense, I don't care what the agent said about it being a mutual decision. They said it was a decision to go to UCLA in the first place. It wasn't. The Commanders didn't want him back, which they made the right call. Cliff's been way better as an OC. UCLA's offense was terrible this year. They're talking like bottom 10. So I think a team in the market for a running backs coach, maybe the Chiefs have an opening there somehow. That would not surprise me at all. Today's show is made possible by PrizePicks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. It's available in over 30 states, California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. The playoffs are here. It's your last chance to get in on the action. This is our conference championship PrizePicks slate. Jalen Hurts, less than rushing yards. I like with the knee injury. Jaden Daniels, more than passing yards. James Cook, more than rushing yards. He's been very good for the Bills this year. Download the app today over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use that code CLNS to get $50 instantly today. Cobra Kai World. Should the Patriots pursue Trey Smith in free agency, and how much do they offer him? I think there's a long list of teams that should pursue Trey Smith. That is the Chiefs offensive guard, who is going to be one of the highest paid offensive guards, if not the highest paid offensive guard ever. I think we're talking $20 million per year, ballpark, somewhere in that range, if not even a little bit higher for Trey Smith with inflation and all that stuff. Highest paid right guard is $20.5 million. Highest paid left guard is $21 million. So you're in that $22 million range. And for a cash, boosted team with a lot of cap space to spend like the Patriots, throwing a bag at him makes a ton of sense. Justin Arnold. Will the Seahawks trade DK Metcalf? Yeah. I would not be surprised, actually. I don't know if it actually happens, but I think it is a real possibility. The way the contract sets up, they have the option to move on. I don't know if your head coach wants to give up a good but not elite player. I think it's kind of plateaued. He's going to be a 1,000-yard player, but there are going to be elements of his game that just aren't going to get any better. And teams need receivers. It's a big-time name. I would not sleep on a potential DK Metcalf trade this offseason. Name a player who you think ends up getting traded. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Lakura Victor. Hopefully I pronounced that right. If not, I'm terribly sorry. Now that Chicago got Ben Johnson, do you think that they'll trade or sign a blockbuster during the upcoming offseason? We'll see what they do. Seems like Ryan Poles got to keep his job, so we'll see what their overall plan of attack is. I think if they can get an offensive lineman, again, a team that makes a lot of sense for Trey Smith, right? If they can get a lineman, that might be the big splashy move. Like Ben Johnson had a lot of success in Detroit with a really, really good offensive line. So if we can count offensive linemen as a blockbuster, that wouldn't surprise me. Also wouldn't be shocked if they throw money at the O-line in the offseason and maybe spend a first-round pick on like an Ashton Genty. Or maybe it's a round 2, round 3 pick and they invest in the offensive line early. That would not surprise me either. Mark Kearns. Which quarterback draft class is better, 2025 or 2026? It's a great question. In general, we are often the victims of, hey, next year's draft class is going to be even better than this year's one, especially at the quarterback spot. That does happen. That does happen a lot. But it's also very unclear how good that class is going to be next year. You're looking at maybe Arch Manning. We'll see if he wants to go pro. Or if he's good. We haven't seen very much of him. Drew Aller's been really inconsistent. Connor Wigman was bad this past year. Garrett Nussmeier is intriguing, but also kind of a streaky football player. Lenore Sellers, Nico Amaleava, Jackson Arnold, like those guys are, it's a dicey group. So I don't love this quarterback class. I also would be a little bit wary to say, yes, next year's class will be better because it just might not be. Now, if you're enjoying our NFL mailbags, thank you. Make sure you are subscribed as well. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Skyler, I think Spags won't take any coaching job because he will take over for KC when Andy Reid retires. I would actually like that for the Chiefs, more than I would think I'd like a Matt Nagy hire in KC, which also wouldn't necessarily surprise me whenever Reid calls it quits. Yeah, Spags in the end might just be a great defensive coordinator, but I am surprised there's been the limited amount of interest in him over the course of his recent run in KC. From Reggie Wayne. Wait a minute. Maybe. Who knows? Can't. The profile picture's generic. Maybe not. Can't disprove it. Where does Kirk Cousins play? Browns? Titans? Two good teams. Raiders? Jets? Stopgap option to replace Rodgers? I don't know what ends up happening with Kirk Cousins because he's getting paid a lot of money. He wasn't very good. He, in theory, is going to be a bit better coming off the injury, but he's very old. There's no leverage at all for Atlanta. Browns do make sense, though, because I think they're kind of out on the Deshaun Watson thing finally with another Achilles injury. If I had to guess, I think I'd say Browns because he fits the Kevin Stefanski offense, but I'm not sold on that one. Who do you think ends up adding Kirk Cousins this offseason? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Rob, if the Jags make the wrong hire, does Trevor Lawrence request a trade? This offseason, no. If it's bad again for a year or two, I guarantee you start seeing those rumors pop up. Because I think there was already some reports that his dad was kind of unhappy with the general way things were being run in Jacksonville. I think the bigger issue is the presence of Trent Baalke. I don't think he's good at his job. I don't know how he keeps getting to stick around. That kind of blows my mind. But that's where they're at. They got to get this one right for sure. Cobra Kai, if the Patriots fail to sign T. Higgins, should they trade for DK Metcalf? They should try, yeah. Now, they might have to know on T the reality because I don't know if Seattle wants to wait till the free agency period for a trade of DK Metcalf, but that one would not surprise me at all.